So as we head into the end of the school year, I usually get a lot of questions about the best way to prepare for the final exam. There's lots of different ways, but to help you kind of think about strategies for getting ready for the final exam, I'm going to look at the test first. So this is a test that was actually given June 14th, 2013. So this is a test that students took last year. And I think this is really a helpful place to start because the format of the test oftentimes is going to direct how you study. And the more familiar you are with this and more comfortable with it, the more confident you're going to feel as you get ready for the test. Feeling confident and relaxed is probably one of the most important things you can do as you go into the test day. Let's go ahead and look at this. So here's just the front page. Here's part A. Go ahead and look at what kind of questions you have for part A. You'll notice that you have multiple choice questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start flipping through this. You can see it's still multiple choice, multiple choice, multiple choice. Now here's part B1. And if you look at these questions, it's still multiple choice, but there's a little bit of a difference here. You'll notice that these are group questions. So for part A, you're going to have multiple choice questions, and they're from all aspects of the school year. Different topics. You know, you could be jumping from dynamic earth to astronomy to rocks and minerals. Oftentimes they'll group the topics, but realize you're going to be jumping around. So in this question, you have group questions in the sense of like you have one diagram, and then those questions all refer back to that diagram. In other words, questions 36 through 38 all refer to that one diagram. All right. Then here's a reading. One thing I'm going to remind you about the reading is oftentimes the answers, so this is 39 through 43, for those questions the answers might not be directly in the reading. Sometimes what students do is they come to these readings and they keep hunting and hunting and hunting for the answers to the questions down here. Just realize that oftentimes what's going to happen is in this reading they're going to give information, and then you got to make a connection either to something you learned from the school year or to your eCert. So keep in mind that the answers are not going to be directly in here, but they're going to lead you towards the correct answers. All right, so B1, group questions. We'll just kind of keep rolling along here. And we're going to get up to question 50 here. Question 50 is the last multiple choice questions. And then you're going to move into part B2. B2, these are short response questions. Okay. And then lastly, part C. Part C, again, are short response. Sometimes you're going to have what are called constructed response. With constructed response, you're doing like a graph, maybe you're drawing isolines, you're doing something that involves kind of like drawing or some kind of like labeling or something like that. So that brings us to the end of the test, which is right here, and you can see there's 85 questions. So I kind of break this down a little bit. There's different parts of this. There's part A, and that's multiple choice. There's the B1, that's multiple choice, and those are the group questions. B2, that's the short response and constructed response. Sorry about the B there. And then part C. Part C is also the same. It's short response and constructed response. One other section to think about is part D. Part D is the lab practical. You've already taken that. So if you think about the format of the test, and that's a good question to think about the format of the test, most of the questions are these multiple choice questions. That's 50 questions total. All right, and then the remaining section, you have 35 questions. And then the part D you've already done. Part D is about 20%, and then the remaining 80% comes from the written portion of the exam. as you're thinking about where a lot of the points come from, it's from this multiple choice section right here. So as you go into your studying, it's really good to practice a lot of multiple choice. You shouldn't limit to multiple choice, but realize that you are going to get a lot of multiple choice on the final. Anyway, that's the final. So, studying resources for you. To find resources to help you study, you should come here to my website, the Moodle website. You'll notice that here at the top it says Study for Final Exam. If you click on that, what I'm going to do is bring you through some of these resources. The first place you want to go to is the Minerva Deland Review Center. You should be familiar with this. We've been using this for our review quizzes throughout the past few weeks. This section right here you've already used, or you've had the opportunity to use that. This is still active and you can use anything within that area. You have the printable review questions. You can print those off and do those. There's the interactive form where you can just get immediate response and answers. If you do print these off, you're going to want the answer key. The answer key for all of these is located over here. Okay, so answer key for like these printable ones is over here. Then there's a lot of other resources that maybe you haven't really quite used yet. There's the ESRT scavenger hunt. If you think about the final exam, a lot of the questions are going to come from your Earth Science reference table. So it's really going to be helpful for you to go to the ESRT and do like some practice from that. Another really good resource for you are these interactive exams. And I'm actually going to go ahead and open that up so you can see why these would be helpful for you. I'm going to go to one of the more recent exams, the January 2011. What happens is this opens up a PDF, and this PDF is kind of unusual in that it's interactive. So I'm going to look at question 1 here and actually do it with you. It says, if an observer on Earth views Polaris on the horizon, the observer is located at the, and you got to pick one obviously. If you remember, Polaris, the angle of Polaris is equal to your latitude. So if it's on the horizon, that means that the angle to Polaris is probably, I should say probably, the angle to Polaris is 0 degrees. So that means you're located on the equator. So that means number 1 is going to be right. Well, you want to double check. The way you double check is you take the mouse and you hover over this choice right here. Okay? Like that. And you can do that for any of these other ones. The thing that's cool about this too is it also helps you out with a short response. So I'm going to go down here to some of the short response questions. And I think that right here. You'll notice that it says down here, approximately how many days does Earth take to move from position A to C? And if you come here and you hover over this, you'll see it says 88 to 94 days. So the answer is right there. So use that. That's a really great resource. So that's one resource for you. Other resources on this site. Some other good ones are New York State Regents exams. These are kind of cool. These are old exams that we've had. You can print these off. This is the one from last year. If you print these off, there is a key right here. The actual exam is right there. You might need to print off the answer booklet too, like if there's any constructed response, like some graphs and stuff. So that's a really nice resource for you. There's a Regents review video, review book, 117 ways to pass the Regents. All these things are different ways to study and get prepared for the final. Back to my site on Moodle, you have the interactive full-length exams. That's the same thing I've already shown you. I put it on there again because this is probably one of the best ways you can get ready for the final exam. There's also review games. You're probably familiar with that. There is this video here, which does a really nice job. If you want to see it bigger, you just make it big like this, double click on it. There's also this presentation here. You can hit full screen on it and then just click. It'll give you some reminders, but then it'll also give you some like kind of tips for how to do well on the final. Lastly, there's the glossary. The glossary is something I put together on my website to really help students be focused on some key concepts throughout the unit. I would really encourage you to kind of work through these. They're organized by alphabet, but you can also organize them by category. So, if there's like a unit that maybe you kind of struggled on, you can come here to the category section, drop down, like say meteorology was one that was kind of tricky for you, and you just look at these different words on here. Okay, it's a nice review. So you might be wondering why I'm throwing so much at you, and there's kind of a part of me as a teacher, I'm a little reluctant to like throw too many things at you because I don't want to overwhelm you. If you think about it, everyone kind of learns a little bit differently, and with that in mind, I want to give you like different options. So that's why I'm giving so much different materials to you. One thing I want you to kind of keep in mind though is kind of the spectrum of studying. So study strategies. Anytime you're studying, there's kind of different waves or levels of activity when you're studying. There's very active and there's passive. The more active you are, the more you're going to really get out of your learning. So for example, if you think about different ways of saying, like I talk to a lot of students and I ask them, well, how did you study? And oftentimes they'll say, well, I just looked over my notes. If you think about the spectrum from passive to active, that is a very passive way of studying. So notes or just reading over notes is very passive. You compare that to something else like the interactive exam. That's very active. And the more active you are, the more you're going to get out of it. So interactive exams. There's some other ways too, like maybe the video, that might be a little bit more active. There's that presentation.
Regents Review Live is underwritten by New York State Teacher Centers provide development
review
for
games. That's pretty active. One thing that might not be as good about that is sometimes those questions aren't as hard as they might be on the final exam. The more you can be over on this side, the better. Now, I'm not saying you should ignore these other sources, but if you're only relying on things over here, you're probably not going to get like a really well balanced studying. So I would really focus a lot of time on there and then make sure to do some over here as well too. If you're not doing any of this stuff in this section, you're probably going to struggle in the final exam. Anyway, those are some ways you can get ready for the final. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'd be happy to help out. Thanks and good luck.